Hey guys, I'm here at Nick's house. Just want to share a couple thoughts and really respond to Maimi Pepper's comments on The Walking Dead and leadership in certain groups during SHTF. But before I get into that, I want to just go over a couple of things. I was listening to this interview on Huffington Post, some actress who played on this TV show Banshee, and she's doing this movie. She started in this movie called Loves Her Gun, and she was talking about guns and her own personal life, and you know. She made some really bizarre comments. Like, for example, she didn't buy guns as being viable for self-defense. Well, unless you're Chuck Norris or Steven Seagal or some world-class judo expert, what do you recommend? She bought it as a hobby. Okay, I'm like, when did people become so disconnected from the Constitution? I mean, you don't buy it as self-defense. Women defend themselves with guns from violent attackers all the time. There's plenty of stories. You can do some research on it. Apparently she spoke with some so-called experts or whatever, and she was convinced that it took so much training that using guns as self-defense wasn't really viable because you couldn't always have it with you. Well, outside of the state of California, it's very common for certain individuals, people, if they want, to get a hold of a concealed carry permit, okay, or CCW or whatever. You can legally carry just about anywhere you go throughout this country. And I think people from California and New York don't really understand that we actually have a Second Amendment that's recognized by our governments outside of those states. So yes, I do carry everywhere I go, and it's very viable. You carry with you every day. You make sure you're familiar with the gun, make sure you know how to use it, and hopefully you never have to use it. She made another interesting comment. She said something to the tune of, well, she basically said she would rather, in regards to someone breaking into her house, she would rather be robbed than shoot another person, kill another person. It's interesting how she constructed that, as if someone breaking into your house means that they're only going to rob you. And it's interesting how she sort of created that little scenario, how her choice was only robbery or killing someone. If someone's breaking into your house, you have no idea why they're breaking into your house. Okay, you don't, if you're a woman by yourself, you don't know if they're there to just rob you, to just get money so they can buy drugs or get prescriptions to fix, so they can get high. You don't know what's going on in their mind. They may be in there just to rob or just to steal, but they may see you and something may click in their head. They may decide to do something else. You have no idea of knowing that. So someone breaking into your house doesn't necessarily either get robbed or kill somebody. It could be either they rape you or you kill them. It could be either they beat you or you kill them. They could be there to beat you, they could be there to rape you, they could be there to kill you. You have no idea. So I wonder how many women really think like that. Like, some people may even go as far as to say, I would rather die than have to shoot another person. Well, that's your choice. But I don't think people should get some silly notion in their mind that if someone breaking into their house, that that person's automatically only going to be there to rob them. There may be situations where you have to defend yourself, whether that person may be there to kill you. So I mean, would you rather face being raped, or would you rather kill that person, stop that person from harming you? I mean, it's a decision that people have to make, but people have to get honest about this, okay? So let's get into The Walking Dead. This is something I wanted to talk about for years. Whenever I watch Rick, the protagonist on the show, make stupid decision after stupid decision, whether it be entertaining Herschel, the old man, the old farmer's notion that the zombies they're people, so let's lock them up in the barn next to where we sleep, to Rick's brilliant idea of a guy shot at me and he got hurt, let's bring him back to our camp and then let's let him go. And of course Shane, the guy who was in love with his wife, he fell in love with her when he thought he was dead and he came back. First of all, Shane was always a better leader. There's no contest. I mean, Maimi Pepper asked, which leader would you follow? The crazy-ass governor. Well, he said the governor. We all know him to be a psychopath. But hey, he had a great setup for his people. Ultimately, he didn't care about them, but he did have a great setup for his people. Rick, who is completely inconsistent. I've complained about that for years, about this character. And then you had Shane, the most logical, consistent, reliable person, practical person. Clearly, Shane was the best leader. his biggest mistake was giving up power to Rick and falling for his girl, which I never thought she was an asset at all. So what type of people would you be willing to follow in a disaster situation in which most of the population passed on and you were completely without government resources? There just wasn't any traditional resources available, and you were pretty much on your own. You try to build a community with people. What characteristics would you look for in a leader? Would you want to be a leader? Not me. Would want to be a leader, because first of all, you got to know what you want if you want to be a leader. Rick never really knew what he wanted, and I agree with a lot of the things that Maimi Pepper said about Rick. But my biggest problem with Rick is that he was very over here one second and over here the next second. And you have to know, not only do you have to know what you want, but you have to be able to step away from the situation and just be practical. Okay, don't let your emotions guide you towards something that's just completely irrational and dangerous. So those are some of the things I would look for in a leader. But to be frank, I would have a hard time trusting people to build a community. In order to build a community, I would have a very hard time saying, okay, what's mine is yours and what's yours is mine. Because at the end of the day, I still want to keep mine. So that would be a problem for me. I would have to trust somebody a great deal in order to really want to join a group in that type of situation. It will be hard to do it on your own, but for me, I would have a hard time trusting somebody I didn't know before that crisis, before that disaster. Because again, you don't really know that person, Trust is a hard thing to build, especially for me, because I've been burnt by certain individuals over the years, and I've put an end to that. I'm very cautious and very conservative in the way that I assess people, and I just don't let anybody into my life. So, what will it take for you to really trust that person? Trust a group. If most of the population has passed on and you were basically on your own, you had to work with other people. What would it take for you to really want to trust somebody? For me, I would prefer to be working with people I knew before the crisis. But then, you may think you know somebody, then the crisis happens, and then you meet the real person, whether it's family, whether it's friends. So that's something to think about. Those are my questions to you guys. That's my response to Maimi Pepper's video on The Walking Dead. Another thing I would like to add on to it, the prison, it wasn't a very good place to go, simply because it wasn't fortified enough. Because prisons are designed to keep you in, not necessarily the best place to keep things out, as you saw with the gates around that prison. You got to think about why the building was built in the first place. And prisons were really built to keep people in, and that's not really necessarily something you want. You want to be able to get out of something easily. There wasn't enough fresh air in those buildings, so when that flu came around, you had a bunch of people just locked up together in one place. It just made the situation much worse. So I actually thought the farm was a much better setup. The only reason why that went to hell is because of Rick. Farm was a much better setup. I actually would have stuck with the farm. I would have actually collected all the useless cars I wasn't using. I would have actually driven all the cars I could out to that place, pick them apart in parts, take all the valuable parts, all the batteries I could possibly use, any spare part I might possibly be able to use, and just leave them as shells on the exterior of the actual place, and actually use them as a wall. It would have taken a very long time, but they would have had the time to do that if they had not had a collection of zombies in the barn next to where they slept. All right. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for listening. Share your thoughts. And don't forget, the future belongs to those who prepare for it today.